Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So, welcome everyone. We're going to do a little session on how to contribute to Meshery CLI, which is the CLI that is talking to Meshery API. Myself, it's Matthieu Evrin. I am a French guy from in Canada, and I have started to, and I've become a maintainer in the Meshery organization since last year, and I'm contributing for about 1 year now, I think so. And yeah, you can see my the link to my uh, community member here. Aadhitya,
Yeah,
you want to?
sure. Thanks, Matthieu. So, hello everyone. I'm myself Aditya. I'm a data engineer working at City and also working as a maintainer for CLI model with Meshery. And about me, I joined Layer 5 as a contributor in 2021 and have been contributing towards the Meshery project since. And I have contributed towards many models like documentation and Meshery CTL. And so, yep, here I am. And then during my free time, I would just usually play games, listen to some chill music, and develop some kind of projects, and also help contributors as well to their PRs. Reviewing, merging PRs. So that's my stuff about me. And the below link is my profile, community profile in the layer 5 side. So yeah.
Okay, so today what we are going to see, we will have a little introduction. We will review the architecture around Meshery CTL and Meshery. We will explain how the repository, GitHub repository is structured, and a couple of point on how to install Meshery CTL, how to have a local setup to be able to develop in Meshery CTL, and how to use the CLI, and also how to contribute on the project. So what is Meshery CTL? Meshery CTL is the command line interface. Meshery is a big project with several components. You have a server, you have the front end, you have the CLI, and other components that it's described in the documentation. And basically, the CLI is just how to communicate, how to interact with Meshery server using your terminal. So like I mentioned, here you can see here the architecture of Meshery. On the left side, you see the Meshery UI, Meshery CTL, and script that can be used to call the Meshery API. The Meshery API itself is the main services who do the stuff in with Meshery operators, mesh sync, etc. Like you see on the picture here. Aditya, if you have something to add, you can.
No, usually that explains it, Matthieu.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
here you see that this is for the Kubernetes provider, because Meshery is able to run on Kubernetes and also on Docker. So here you can see that the Docker install of Meshery server, and the same way we have a UI extension and a Meshery CTL that is calling. So now we will go more in detail in the code itself. So if you go on GitHub, you can find the repository in this link, and the root structure of the repository will be a doc folder, install folder, mesheryctl, policies, provider UI, server, and UI. Here we will stay in the doc repository and mesheryctl folder, and in the doc and mesheryctl folder. So when you will clone the Git repository, you will see that in the root folder there is mesheryctl, and inside it you can see all those folders, which is following Golang basics project structure. And inside that, outside that folder, there's a doc page project mesheryctl where most of the documentation page related to Meshery are. Here, when you drill down in the, if I come back in here, you can see that in mesheryctl there a folder named internal CLI root, and this is where all commands are created in for mesheryctl. So if we go inside that folder, you can see that there's a lot of folders there, and each folders represent one command in mesheryctl. Yes, Adi.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Matthew, I will take out the slide. So now that Matthew has explained about the Meshery CTL and what will be the repository structure will be, so for new contributors, if you want to install the Meshery CTL in your system, these are the few instructions. I have segregated based on the kind of operating systems you guys might have. Most probably, assuming that most of them use Linux, I haven't added the instructions. Or else, if you are using Windows or WSL will also cover up on Linux, so that doesn't matter. But if you are using exclusively like Windows and not any other operating system, there is also an instruction for that. So to install only the Meshery CTL and you don't want to deploy Meshery in your Docker instance or Kubernetes cluster yet, then you can use the first command, which is just the deploy underscore Meshery flag equal to false. So what it will do is it just installs the Meshery CTL in your system, but not it will not deploy Meshery basically. But however, if you have indeed have the Docker instance or Kubernetes cluster, well and good. The second command is nothing will install both the Meshery CTL as well as install Meshery into your Kubernetes cluster or Docker, depending on whatever kind of platform you're in. For there are additional installation instructions for Kubernetes clusters like AKS or GKE, but that is present in the documentation because there might be behind the scenes there would be some kind of setup you need to connect your Meshery instance to for this cluster. So, but for overall, these commands will suffice. And if you do have a package manager installed like a homebrew installed in your Mac OS or Linux, well and good, then we do have a homebrew command for it, brew install Meshery CTL. For Windows, if you there is a package manager called as Scoop, so you can just install Scoop and then type Scoop install Meshery CTL. So what it will do is once you have installed the Meshery CTL, you will be config file will be created called as the mesh config. So that is the config file for Meshery and which you can modify your Meshery instance according to it. Like for example, install adapters or tweak the dashboard UI according to it. the path will be created at the mentioned over here. And if you want the more info about like how mesh config works and how I can tweak it, then I have provided the documentation link below, which you can refer in the slide after that. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay. So this instruction, say the first slide includes all the will cover up mostly 95% of installation part. But say if you want to download the Meshery CTL manually, this is just an off the books tip. You can also install Meshery from the GitHub Meshery repo, where you can find under the releases page. You can just see it over here. There will be a separate architecture for macOS, Linux, and Windows. You can just install the zip and then configure your environment variables to pinpoint the Meshery CTL to it, or else it will be an additional instruction where you have to edit the environment variables to pinpoint a Meshery CTL instance basically. But if you are a geek and want to tweak around something, then this is also possible. So yeah, next slide. Okay, so now that you have installed Meshery CTL, assuming and you have used a part of it, now if you want to contribute to the Meshery CTL, that's well and good. So what do I need? Where do I start with? So these are the following requirements. Uh, the first and foremost is primary you need is a Golang, the version 1.23 or above installed. For Windows, if you are working in Windows, exclusively on Windows operating system, then you need to install GNU Make. Make is the one which helps in building the Meshery CTL behind the scenes. For Mac OS and Linux, it's already inbuilt. But if you are exclusively on Windows and you don't want to migrate WSL for some reason, then you have to no other go install the GNU Make. I have also provided instruction like a link to install directly from the GNU website itself. Or if you have a package manager such as Chocolatey, then you can just directly install um, the GNU Make to it. And third one, if you want to um, say work on the documentation part, then you need to install Jekyll as well. But if you don't need to build your documentation parts and just I need to work on the Golang files alone, then the third one mostly not required. But for safer side, if you want to view how the documentation views in your local build or while raising a PRs also, then you can just install Jekyll and then build the documentation side. So the second question arises how to build Meshery CTL. It's easy. Just go to your, once you clone the Meshery repository in your system, you just need to go to the Meshery folder in a CLI and type make command. This is for, again, for Linux and Mac OS. If you are in Windows, just type make for win. For win is the additional flag you need to give if you are in Windows, or I'll just make will just resolve it. And then if you have made any changes to the Golang files, you can just test your local build for Meshery CTL and it will appear as below. For Linux, it will be Linux or macOS, it will be just mesheryctl binary file, and for Windows, it will be .exe. With that, you can test around, and then you can, if you feel good that your changes are good, then you can just open a PR about your changes and then straight away contribute. So yeah. And again, you can ask like what kind of libraries are used to make Meshery CTL. So these are the libraries used. The primary one is the Cobra, which is the standard framework for creating the command line interface apps via Golang. And the second one is Viper. So Viper is the one which will interact with the mesh config, which I earlier said in the previous slide. So this library is also being used for handling the mesh config files. So third one is the BATS framework. This is for writing the E2E test cases integration test. So batch framework is used. And fourth one is for logging purposes and reusing the architectural components in Meshery. We do use Meshkit as well. So yeah, next slide. Over to you, Matthieu. I think you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep. Yeah, good.
So just to give more details, we use Cobra framework for uh, develop the commands inside Meshery CTL. So this is the official documentation page of Cobra framework. So why this framework? Because it comes with a lot of goodies to helping to create CLI and without doing stuff manually. There's, for example, when you create a new command, the help function is always it's always implemented for you. So that's why we are using this framework. Now I will go to an example of command that we have in Meshery CTL. Just let me know if you can see the GitHub property. Okay.
It's visible. Yep.
Okay. So here, for example, I just share the Meshery CTL environment command. And here you can see we have several files: create, delete, environment, list, view.go files. Each of those files are related to a command. The root command is environment, and under that command we have the subcommand create, delete, list, and view. So how this is done? So basically here we are just using Cobra framework. We just need to instantiate a command from that library, which is named environment command. Inside, when we do the initialization, we are using the use, short, long, example, args, and run e fields, which are some components that are built in the framework. And also we are using the init function. Basically what the init function is doing, it's just when you run at the runtime, it is called by the instance, and here it will just add all the subcommands available in that command. If I come back here, let's go in another example in the create command. So here we have exactly the same setup, and something that we can go deeper here. It's, for example, for the args field, here it's will be always a function. Basically, what we are doing here, it's validate that every flags we are, every required flags have been sent by the user. And if it's not working, we will return an error. And if it's okay, it will go through the run function here, where basically we are just doing a create. And here you can see we have also the init function. And the last part we can cover here is the test part. So we have a command inside environment. Under that command, we have a subcommand create. And for that subcommand, we are creating some tests. So basically what we want to do here is just validate that if we are running the command with some missing arguments or the required arguments, the command behave like we want. And yes, that's what what we have to say here. Related to BATS, automated testing system, it's the end-to-end testing. I will not go through this today, but we had a session that was already recorded, and you can watch it on this link. And here it's related to the documentation. Aditya, want you?
Yep, I will take over on this one. So now that you have learned the basics of how to contribute in Meshery CLI, assuming, and there is another part called for documentation. So yep, without documentation, you won't know how to use that command properly, right? So we do have the documentation for Meshery CTL, and this is the a doc page as well. And yep, you will see that there are various documentation pages on command level and subcommand level. So if you have any doubt, queries, or issues facing like how to use this command, what did I did wrong, then you can refer to these doc pages, and you can view them individual doc pages as well, which will have the description of the each command and how to use them, um, and some of the examples and what are its flags present in each command level, etc. So if you are like interested, if you want to contribute to this docs as well, then there is certain instructions given in link below. Yep. So this is document generating the documentation pages is kind of automated. The Cobra it is using Cobra's default functionality as well to generate the document pages, which Matthew have showed you in the screen, and the instructions to create the documentation pages for those commands is given in this website link, and you can follow the instructions given in the website so that you can generate the documentations. So if you ask like, is it the manual process for command pages, it is automated most probably, but sometimes you might need to manually create the index page, which is bit of a static web page for now, honestly. But for the each command and subcommand doc pages, it is mostly automated and it is done using the GitHub Actions. So if you want to run the manual build of the dogs on your site, then you can just in the Meshery CTL folder, you just run make docs. The what will do is it will run the Golang script to generate the documentation pages, and it will generate the documentation pages for you under this location, docs pages reference Meshery CTL. You can just it will be just markdown web pages basically. So you can just build the docs using Jekyll, and then you can have a preview. Or if you want, if you can't view them on the local basis, when you raise a PR, it will automatically create a copy of documentation pages to you. So that will also suffice. So you can just preview them. Or oh yeah,
Let me see if I found something there. Not this one.
uh, no, I think Nikita's PR might actually have one of them. I guess. No, no,
No.
no, not yet.
Okay, we'll do that another time.
Yeah.
And okay, if I'm right,
So, yep, that's much of it. If there are any questions, you can feel free to unmute and ask us right now, or put it in the Zoom chat, or forever hold your peace. Any questions, folks?
So when I was like developing like the subcommands, like was manually editing YAMLs like in I think in docs folder. So looks like I did it wrong, right? I just need to run and make docs, and it will do it instead of me.
Yes.
So
For generating the command or subcommand docs, what you need to do is you just need to go to the Meshery CTL in your terminal and type make docs. What it will do is it will run the Golang script to generate the markdown pages in your local, and then in the docs folder, you need to go to that via terminal and then type make. Simple. What you do for building the documentation pages, it is a same process only. There's no much of change in that. But yes, for the index page, the tables which Matthieu had showed previously, for that you need to edit the YAML file basically.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
uh, I'm not able to found the GitHub action, but basically there's a GitHub action that will just do it in the CI when you are doing a pull request, and you will recreate the doc files, and it will be merged in main once your pull request is merged as well.
Let me find if I can find it here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Any other question?
I think I found it here. I'll just stop sharing, start sharing for a while and take over.
Yep.
So this is one of the GitHub actions which will generate the CLI docs for you. Um, and if your what it will do is if your PR is successful and we maintainers upload your PR and merge it successfully, what this action will do is this will run the script called as Meshery CTL docs, which the action will take over and override all the existing documentation pages exactly. And if there are new documentation pages found, it will just add them those, and it will perform the other action for generating the documentation website will run parallelly, and then you can just view the website typically. And for uh, to view the documentation website, I think there's one. Let me just quickly find. I yesterday with example taken from Nikita's PR as well. Oh yeah, here it is. So if you have made any edits on the documentation pages for the Meshery CTL, also it will just the what we will do is the GH action will detect that you have created a documentation pages for the some Meshery CTL commands, and you can just go to the build link given by the action and then click command line reference. And if there is any edit or new web pages created by the GitHub actions, you can just view them here itself instead of, you know, if you can't build the documentation website manually on your system, you that is this is the alternative way as well. So yep. Mm, that's the thing. Any more questions? We will wait for 1 minute and then we'll wind up.
Is there any good first issues related to Meshery CTL? Since I couldn't find one.
So on GitHub, you can go on the Meshery project, and in the issues, you can filter labels with Meshery CTL and good first issue, I think.
Yeah.
So with those two flags, you should be able to. For example, here you can see this one, yes.
Okay, I think it's already being worked upon, but what you can do is you can just filter the label good first issue and find out with the label Meshery CTL in the issues title. And then if you find it like nobody's has been working upon or it's been for a long time, then you can just hop in and say, hey, I looked at this issue and want to fix it and contribute to the Meshery CTL. So we would help you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Aditi. Okay.
If there is any other question for Aditya and Matthieu, you can ask right now, or maybe you can ask in the Slack later on as well. Thank you, Aditya and Matthieu. I'll start sharing my screen. So, oops, just a second. Okay. So thank you, Matthieu and Aditya, for awesome session. We really enjoyed it. Hopefully others also enjoyed your session. And if anyone wants to rewatch it, you can go on the YouTube channel to rewatch the session as well. And we have a couple of leftover items. If there is any item we should discuss right now, please let us know. I'll wait for 5 more seconds if there's any important item we should discuss. Otherwise, we'll cover them in the next meeting, next Wednesday. Thank you, everyone. I'm considering there is no other item we need to discuss right now. Thanks for joining us today. I really enjoyed today's session, and hopefully you too. Have a nice Wednesday as well. Good evening, good night for some few folks, and maybe good morning. So yeah, enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.